Hello, welcome or welcome back to the YarnNYarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel I spend my time waffling on about my adventures in knitting, crochet, spinning, weaving, any kind of fibre things that take my fancy. Today's video is another one of our 12 cast-ons making vlogs. And if you are new to the channel and you're unaware of the 12 cast-ons, it's a fun little adventure that I undertake at the end of each year going into the beginning of the next, where I spend 12 consecutive days casting on 12 new projects to hopefully set myself up for my year or my year's worth of making, because often I have so many works in progress on the go that it takes me a long time to get anything finished. If you're a regular here, you'll know. I'm starting a new making vlog today. It's March 2023 as I'm recording this, and I've recently rolled the dice to determine what projects I'm going to focus on for the coming few weeks. And one of the prompts that was picked for me in this round of my dice game was to work on something handspun, and I decided to go with a project that I cast on for this year's iteration of the 12 cast-ons, and it's the Dappled light shawl, which is living in a me-made project bag. It's a project that I cast on the 10th day of my cast-on adventures 2022, and I'm knitting mine from a batch of single spun yarn. Here is one of the skeins that I've balled up. The fibre was originally from Nellie and Eve, who are a lovely yarn fibre company based here in Wales, and in 2020, back in 2020, I was a member of their fibre club for around about a year, but I wasn't able to kind of keep up my spinning, so in the end I decided to take a pause on my fibre club membership. But I got lots of lovely natural dyed, so Nellie and Eve are known for their natural dyeing. Got lots of natural dyed Blueface Leicester, and actually this was, I think, the first ever club colourway, and this was back when I was determined to spin each month's fibre as it arrived. And of course that quickly went out of the window and I wasn't able to keep up. I spun this yarn back in 2020 at some point, and my intention was to weave a scarf with it, I think, at the time. And I have all of these beautiful little skeins just hanging out in my stash. I spun this entirely on my drop spindle. I never got round to progressing the weaving project. So this year, when I was adding a little bit of a random element to my 12 cast-ons, I ended up picking out this yarn to work with from my handspun stash. This is my progress on the shawl that I'm knitting up. We cast this on, I think I've already said, on day 10, and here is my progress. These needles. So yeah, a kind of small neckerchief at the moment, but will hopefully become a nice big squishy cozy shawl. I've picked a pattern from an issue of Making magazine. This is the Forest issue. It's quite a few years old now, so I would imagine most of these, if not all of these patterns, are available individually. And I'm working the Dappled light shawl, which is a pattern by, is it Carrie Bostic Hogue? Yes, it is. Let me try and find a picture if I can. It's a fairly simple garter stitch with some eyelet rows. So yeah, it's a combination of garter, eyelet and these kind of drop stitches, which is making for a really fun texture. I haven't bothered working out my gauge because it's a shawl, who cares? Certainly not me. I think my gauge is slightly looser than in the pattern because, yeah, in the pattern pictures just look like their fabric is slightly tighter than my fabric, but I don't mind that at all. I'm really enjoying how this beautifully dyed fibre is knitting up. There's some really subtle shifting of colours. There's lots of beautiful kind of brown shades, but there's also some hints of pink in here and a little bit of yellow, mustard yellow at points as well. And my singles yarn is not very consistent. I think this might have been my first ever attempt at spinning a intentional singles yarn. It's gently thick and thin in places, which is absolutely fine. It's just adding some extra texture into the shawl. It's the 10th of March as I'm recording this, and so far this month I've been concentrating on my sweater project. So each month I'm trying to pick at least one sweater project to work on because I've got quite a few sweaters on the needles. But I'm taking a pause on that project this weekend because I've got to the point where I'm about to split for the sleeves potentially on that sweater. I've actually taken that sweater off the needles and I've popped it into soak and block. So I'm now waiting for that to dry. So in these cold March temperatures, I'm not expecting that that sweater will be ready to pick up and work on again for the next couple of days, which is the perfect opportunity to try and make some progress on my Dappled light this weekend. So I'm excited to see how far I can take this project this month. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to working with this lovely yarn, and working with this yarn has really given me the urge to pull out some more fibre from my Nelly and Eve fibre glove and spin it up. Hopefully I will get time to do that. I'm already working on one quantity of my Nelly and Eve fibre glove. I'm getting that on the wheel this weekend as well, hopefully. But yeah, it's just such a joy working with handspun that I just want to make all of the handspun and knit with all of the handspun at the minute. I need to figure out where I am. I think if I remember rightly, it's a so many row pattern repeat, and I'm just kind of increasing now until this shawl is as big as I want it to be, and I've got plenty of singles yarn to work with. I don't imagine that I will use it all, but I'm not sure yet because obviously my rows are going to grow ever longer. The adventure started with the 12 cast-ons and it continues here. I'll see what I can get done this weekend. The weekend has passed, so it's back to work week again, which is fine. It rolls round quicker than we would always like, doesn't it? I managed to get in, I think, 3 pattern repeats, maybe 4. Let me try and figure it out. 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern repeats on the Dappled light shawl. So it's grown a fair amount. Here is the marker showing where it was when we picked it up at the weekend. And I'm still really enamoured with the subtle shifting of colours in this beautiful natural dyed yarn. It's really hard to get an accurate depiction. I've been trying to take some photos of this and it keeps showing up as grey on the camera, but in reality it's this lovely sort of warm brown with these pops of pinks and mustards through. My favourite little section of the shawl is this bit here. I'm probably not going to be able to get the camera to focus at all. But each side of the little pattern structure in there are strips of the mustardy colour, and for some reason that's just making my heart sing. This is really quite soft. My singles yarn is very thick and thin in places, but it all just adds to the texture of the shawl, I think, and some of the unevenness will block out slightly anyway. Yeah, it's just a joy to be working on this again. I've worked out that I think I need 15-ish pattern repeats for the shawl to be as long as recommended in the pattern. As you can see, it's already sort of cowl size. Can wrap that quite comfortably around my neck. I'm trying not to lose the stitches as I faff around with this. I've used 1.5 of my little skeins of yarn. I've got 3 left. My rows are ever growing, so to complete the next pattern repeats are going to get slower and slower. I've done 8 so far, and as I say, I think I need 15, so I'm about halfway if I work to pattern. I've got my other March projects to work on as well, so I'm not sure how fast this is going to go from here. I've got all of my little project bags with all of my March projects down in my corner in the living room, just lined up, and I'm trying to add at least a few rows to each project every day. So we'll see where that takes us by the end of the month. A couple of days have passed and these rows are definitely getting longer and eating up the yarn. I think I've only done 1 more pattern repeat, if that, since I last checked in, and I'm almost at the end now of my second ball of my handspun yarn, and I reckon I might have a row or 2 left out of that yarn before I need to switch in the next. So I've still got 3 more mini skeins of the singles left. So I've come up to the craft attic and I'm going to get one more wound up. I don't want to wind them all up just in case I don't end up using them all in this shawl, and then I just have to end up reskeinin it again. So I'm kind of winding them as I go. This one at the end here is unravelling, so I guess that's the one that's telling me it wants to be wound up. So I need to get on with that so that there are no reasons for me to procrastinate on this project. It's the 15th of the month at the moment, so I've still got a good amount of time to keep working on this shawl. I'm not sure if I will get it finished by the end of the month. It's definitely slowing down now. These rows are getting longer. But it is almost shawl-like. I can almost wrap it round. I would say it's kerchief length rather than shawl length at the moment. But we're getting there, and yeah, I'm still really enjoying working with this lovely yarn. So yeah, I can't complain. I just need to wind up some yarn and make sure that there are no blocks for me to carry on and make as much progress on this as I possibly can. And actually, I think I'm going to take this project out for a bit of out and about knitting. I'm on the part of the pattern repeat now where I'm basically just knitting 12 or 10, 12, I can't remember, rows of garter stitch. So I'm off out to the cinema this afternoon and these rows are taking longer and longer, so I'm going to actually pop this project in my bag and take it with me, because I can definitely knit some rows of garter stitch while I'm in the movies. It won't be too much problem at all.
I could sit around and wait all day. You lay easy on my mind. Like a candle I just burn away. All we really have is time. All we really have is time. I don't wanna waste it on anybody.
And for anyone wondering how I keep track of my rows in the dark when I'm trying to knit a specific row count, well, of course my counting system is snack based. So 10 rows, 10 fruit pastels, 1 consumed at the end of each row. When my pile of fruit pastels is gone, I know I've reached my row count. It's Friday the 17th of March. Look at that beautiful blue sky behind me. I've come out to the beach for a little bit of knitting today because it's just such a beautiful day. So I brought my knitting to the beach for a little bit of lunch break knitting. See if I can add a row or two, and I've pretty much got the beach to myself. It's absolutely glorious today, and as you can see, I'm sat here no coat, just my love loat, and I've got a long-ish sleeve t-shirt underneath, and it's just so warm in the sun. There is a gentle breeze, but it's just glorious, absolutely glorious. How could I not come down with my knitting today?
Take it with anybody but you. I don't wanna waste it on anybody. Take it with anybody but you. What was it they used to say? Seeking you will find. There is nothing in you that is fading.
I also brought with me today this really sweet little book that I found in my local independent bookshop. We've got a lovely bookstore here called Griffin Books, and they just won the Independent Bookshop of the Year for Wales award. And you can order from them online if you don't have a local bookshop. Why not support mine? Because they're wonderful. And I found this little book, 10 poems about knitting. And I'd recently discovered this little collection. It's by Candlestick Press because a friend of mine bought me the 10 poems about swimming book as a gift the other week, which was just really glorious. And I'm not much of a poetry reader, but these are really getting me into the art of poetry. And I've just read the first poem in this book and it's absolutely glorious. I just love it. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to hear me, but I thought I might just read it to you for funsies. So it's called The Symbolism of Ancient Sweaters and it's by Gwyneth Lewis. Homemade sweaters contain a code to be read by initiates. This bobbling here's a marriage proposal. The Fair Isle cuff says, "The dog is a spy, meet me in town on Tuesday." Even more arcane are garments made by knitting machine. I once had a sweater that must have declared, "I only like men with facial hair." They came. The way you knit is how you make love, how you are with your God. It's a question of soul, of daily repair. If space is made of superstrings, then God's a knitter. Everything is craft, and perhaps we could darn tears in the space-time continuum. Also, the book comes with a really cute bookmark that reflects the design on the front of the cover here, which I really love. You might know that I absolutely love my reading, and no matter what genre I'm reading, I'm always looking out for little references to knitting, spinning, weaving. They happen more often than you might think, especially the spinning and weaving metaphors. They pop up in books quite a lot. But to find a little book dedicated to the thing that I love the most, or one of the things that I love the most, is just a real little joy in my day. It's the 28th of March, so the month is rapidly coming to an end. I have been working away on my Dappled light shawl, and I can't remember when I last showed this to you, but it has grown quite a lot. I'm about 1.5 pattern repeats away from finishing the pattern as written, so knitting to the length recommended in the pattern. So far it's quite a nice size shawl. Not quite as big as I would like, however I know, oops, getting myself tangled up in my shawl. Why did I do that? I don't know. I know that with this combination of garter and the sort of lace and drop stitch panels in the shawl, when I block this, so when I soak it and lay it out flat to dry, it's probably going to grow quite a lot. I think it's going to make a really lovely cozy shawl. I don't have a ton of yarn left. I thought that I was going to be fine with yarn, and I know that I am because I've only got 1.5 pattern repeats to kind of my initial goal left. But this is all of the yarn that I've got left. This is one whole hank of my handspun, and then I've got this teeny tiny little nugget. But I think what I'm going to do is just keep going until this runs out. It might be 2.5 pattern repeats rather than 1.5, we'll see. The rows are still getting steadily longer, so it's taking longer to knit each one, and of course it's using up more yarn per row. Because the knitting is slowing down and there's only a couple of days left in the month, how many is there? 3 days left till the end of March. I'm not sure if I'm going to get this finished before the end of the month, but I'm hopeful, although I do have a couple of other projects, one of which was on my list for March that I haven't even started yet. But it should be one of those projects that I can make a reasonable amount of progress in a short amount of time. It's my little garland of advent mittens that I'm working on. I'm also really close to finishing a pair of socks that I've been working on this month as well. I'd like to juggle those 3 projects over the next 3 days and see how far I can get. I think my focus might be on trying to get this shawl finished, because it'd be really nice to end the month with another finished object. I'm still loving the subtle shifts in these colours, which not really showing up today. It's a very overcast day. It's been raining all morning and I got drenched on my little walk out this morning. I try and go out for a walk every day at some point. I'm trying to get in the habit of doing that first thing in the morning. But I managed to cozy up. I had a lovely video chat with a friend, and while we were chatting I wound up the last skein of yarn. So there's no further barriers. I can just knit until this runs out. So wish me luck, and I'll be back hopefully in a couple of days to share with you a finished object. That's the goal anyway. It's the 1st of April and I think it's been a good week or so since I checked in for this project. I had hoped that maybe I would have this project finished by the end of March, but it wasn't to be. I had some other projects that I really needed to concentrate on at the end of the month to try and hit all of my monthly goals for March. So this one went by the wayside a little bit. However, I am about to join my final little skein of yarn for this project, so there's not going to be too much more to go with this. I'm going to keep going with the pattern until my yarn runs out, and I think it's going to be fairly close to the length as recommended in the pattern by the time I get through this. It might be slightly longer, but not too much. I'm actually hoping, because I have been enjoying working with this handspun so much, I'm hoping to keep going and get this finished in April. I've rolled the dice to pick my prompts for my April making, and I very fortuitously got the mood prompt again, which means I can work on whatever I like. It happens that the 1st of the month, the 1st of April, falls on a Saturday, so maybe I could try and concentrate on this for the first weekend of April and get it finished. Yeah, there's not too much knitting left in this little ball of yarn. It's probably deceptive. There'll be more than I think. There'll be a good few hours worth of knitting, but yeah, I'm so close and enjoying that one so much. And I think our weather at the moment is very changeable. We'll still have cold days, although we've hit the spring so-say. There's still plenty of chilly and rainy days where a shawl would be a nice comfort. So I think if I could get this finished in the next week or so, there'd still be opportunity to wear it this spring before the weather gets too warm. Well, hello friends, it's the 13th of April, not Friday the 13th, thank goodness, it's a Thursday. And I am going to try and finish this shawl this month. I've not got too far left to go, so I can't remember when I last checked in. It was probably at the end of March or the beginning of April, and I've got one more ball of my naturally dyed singles spun on my spindle left to add to this shawl. This weekend we're heading away to visit my brother. My brother's recently moved down to Devon, so we're going to visit him for the weekend and see his new house and just catch up with him and his girlfriend and my little niece, which I'm really excited for because we haven't seen them for ages. So I'm going to take this project with me. I don't know exactly how much knitting time I'm going to get. Sadly, James doesn't drive. He never learned to drive a car. So I get to do all the driving, so no knitting time while we're driving, which is a shame because it's going to be 3.5-ish hours each way to get there. But I think there will be some downtime in the evenings. Obviously the main purpose of the visit the weekend is to spend time with family, but I'm sure I'll squeeze in a little bit of knitting time here or there. So I feel like this will be a good project to take with me because I've got the pattern repeat settled in my brain at this point, and I'm about to start one of the garter stitch sections. So yeah, I'm going to work on this project. No matter what progress I make this weekend, it'll be really nice to push through this month and get another one of my 12 cast-ons for this year finished. So I am determined to get this knit either way, even if it doesn't get finished this weekend. But I shall check in at some point and let you know what progress I did make. Thought I'd share a few little clips from our trip to Devon. It was the bed and breakfast that we stayed in, a beautiful little quiet country lane, as the letter spotted James having a wander. We had a little visit into Tavistock and I found a little yarn shop. I may have made a purchase. There was also this amazing mural of a sheep on a building down the road from the yarn shop. So of course I had to take a quick photo of that too. Well, lots of lovely historic buildings in Tavistock, which is just up the road from where my brother lives, including this market hall, and there was a craft market going on. I found a lovely lady who had some fibre for sale, so watch out for that in my acquisitions segment of my next roundup. And of course a visit to Devon is not complete without a little wander around Dartmoor area where we spotted some of the famous wild ponies. At the beginning of the month, I distinctly remember recording a clip saying, hey, I'll have this shawl finished this weekend. And then I put it in the bag and it's been more or less languishing ever since. It's the very end of April now and I really want to get lit. I've got a teeny tiny little nugget of yarn left, so I really want to get this finished. This month I've been concentrating on the baby blanket project that I've had on the needles since last September, October, which is meant for my nephew. He's now 6 months old as I'm recording this in April. And I rolled the dice and kind of picked that project, and I've been really kind of concentrating on that project this month, to the exclusion of most of my other projects. I think most of the projects that I've picked this month have had a little bit of work done here or there, but I've really been focusing my attention on that blanket because I felt like it was a now or never for that project. It's Saturday today. We've got quite a busy weekend ahead. James's sister is over visiting from New Zealand and she arrives to stay with us in a couple of days' time. So we're doing a lot of housework and tidying and just making sure the spare room, which is my kind of yarn storage room for the YarnNYarns sort of overflow stock, we're making sure that we can, you know, allow them to have a bed to sleep in while they stay with us. So there's a lot going on here, but in between that I'm hoping to finish this shawl this weekend. I think since we last spoke I've added the sort of next textured section of this shawl, and as I say, teeny tiny nugget of yarn left. After the textured section there's a sort of panel of 12 rows of garter stitch, and I'm pretty sure this is not going to get me 12 rows of garter stitch given the length of the rows that we've got now. I'm hoping for maybe 4 rows and a cast off at least. I'm not worried if I don't finish exactly on a pattern repeat because I'd rather just keep going. I could, if I wanted to do that, I could have finished back here, but I wanted to keep going until I finished this yarn because it would be a shame to have a teeny tiny little bit left. So my goal for today, which is Saturday, is to get this finished in between houseworky bits, and I'm pretty hopeful that I can get this done by the end of the day. So wish me luck, and hopefully the next check-in will be me sharing this as a finished object. Fingers crossed. I am totally thrilled to say that my Dappled Light shawl is finished. Washed, blocked, the works. Ready to wear. So it's turned out to be about my wingspan. A bit tricky to share with you. This weird rocking dance is just a really nice size to wrap round and keep me cozy. I will try and pop in a shot of the shawl laid out and just put in a little video clip of it so you can see it properly in its entirety. But yeah, it's done. And I did have a teeny tiny, I'm looking around to see if I can find the project bag, which I thought I had brought up here. Yes. So I played a little bit of yarn chicken for the bind off, and I only have what amounts to about a metre's worth of yarn left, which actually is pretty perfect because I wanted to try and use up all of this handspun in this project, because it would have been a shame just to leave a few grams left over sort of hanging out with no particular sort of purpose. I'm really in love with the beautiful dye job that Nellie and Eve did with this fibre. Just as a reminder, it's some Blueface Leicester fibre that was naturally dyed by Nellie and Eve, and this was the Hyacinth Bulb colourway, which was part of the 2020 Fibre Club, so not something that you can get hold of anymore, sadly. I really enjoy the subtle shifting of the colours, the browns, the pinks, the greys, the mustard tones, and I really enjoy how it knitted up in this particular pattern. I think these panels of garter stitch, along with the drop stitch and the yarn over rows, meshed well with the sort of slight texture, slight thick and thin of this yarn. I would highly recommend the pattern if you want a nice simple shawl, one that you could make as big as you like really, and bearing in mind that it is an asymmetric shape, so the bigger you go the longer this final side will be, and the deeper your shawl will sit when you're wearing it. I think I ended up doing 1.5 or just over one more pattern repeat than was suggested in the pattern to achieve this length for me, but I think this has actually turned out to be the perfect size. It'll be nice to tuck under my coat in the autumn and winter months to keep me cozy, but it is also long enough to wear as a traditional over the shoulder shawl if you just want that extra bit of warmth while you're sat at your desk or curled up on the sofa in the evening. Yes, Dappled Light is finished. There's nothing much else to say about it. I feel like this vlog was a little bit discombobulated, and I think I repeated myself a few times in various clips because I kind of lost track of where I was. So I hope you found something to enjoy, and yeah, I apologise if some of it was a little bit repetitive. I'm definitely going to enjoy wearing this when the time is right. It's a little bit warm here in South Wales for a shawl today. Do let me know in the comments below, are you a shawl knitter? Are you working on any shawls at the moment? Do you have any favourite shawl patterns? I would love to know in the comments below. If you're not a shawl knitter but perhaps you are spinning something, then also let me know that in the comments below. I'm about to start a couple of new spin projects, so yeah, I'd love to find out what you have on your spindles or your wheels at the moment. I'm really grateful that I got to use up this quantity of handspun that had been languishing in my stash, and yeah, it was just a fun way to come round to working on this project via our 12 cast-ons this last season. And I will hopefully have linked the cast-on video for this project somewhere above or below during this video if you haven't already seen that and you wanted to hop back and watch that one. I will of course be back again soon here on the channel with some more making content, so I hope you will join me for the next video. But until we do get to spend some time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.